You're Hello, that was Ani DeFranco, Amazing Grace. Hi, welcome to the Porthole to Justice. I am your host, Amelia Duran. It is March 7th, 2019, and I'm still celebrating my departure from a movement that is run by the problem, celebrating my delivery from nonsense. Absolute chaos and nonsense and just treachery and backstabbing and unbelievable treacherous. Anyways, today I'm having on my goddaughter, Cheyenne McQueen, and she's going to be talking about the misuse of psychiatric meds in foster care. We want to start getting more into the solutions and people that are putting forth solutions. We want to be a part of the victories, right? So let me go ahead and try and get her on the line. Children in foster care are notoriously over-medicated, and I'm really proud of her work and what she's doing. And she's going to be helping me out with the show here and there and keeping us posted.
Hello?
Hi, welcome to Justice.
Hey, I am getting my laptop set up, so there might be a little bit of interference here. If you lose me, I'll call right back.
Okay, we're standing by. I'm just...
All right.
Okay, you want to call me?
Okay, you want to call me? I'll call you back in just a minute.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk about some of the misuse or overuse of psychiatric meds. Children are often diagnosed with bipolar disorder, anxiety disorders, attachment disorders, intermittent explosive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, or ADHD in children. Oftentimes it's called PTSD in adults. And they're heavily medicated in custody. And they're prescribed a combination of antipsychotics, antidepressants, stimulants, just a real formula that's kind of sets them up for this failure, with just a mountain of psychiatric disorders, diagnoses, and just the overuse of medication in the foster care system. Health and Human Services quality of care concerns in more than 2/3 of the claim for psychiatric drugs paid for by Medicaid, the health insurer, for most children in foster care that include too many drugs, 37% wrong diagnosis, 23% poor monitoring, 53% or wrong treatment. The OIG recommended that Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services work with the state to enhance oversight, medical reviews and utilization reviews of psychotropic drugs prescribed to children. But Chyenne McQueen, who is a former foster child herself and my goddaughter, has proposed a bill. She has several bills proposed in right now, and she's going to be talking about that with us today. Let's see, are you ready? Let me see if she's ready to join us. Send me thumbs up when you're ready. We were running a little bit behind. Not quite. Okay. Having some issues with her audio. She's experiencing some feedback. So let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna start encouraging her to do more shows. She's gonna be interviewing some of her sisters from foster care. And I still have a show coming up later with Roger Tanner that I need to get back to him. Just been taking a break, taking it easy. So intense. It was just like, I've been very public about my Child Protective Services experience. I have a published interview in, I think it's medicalkidnap.com, and I also have a published interview in Health Nut News. Is it Health Nut News? I want to say it's Health Nut News. And I was also on the show with William Wagner, the host of On Second Thought TV, out of Santa Barbara. I did a show with him shortly after my case closed and during my federal court case. Anyhow, somehow it's very controversial. This happened in 2015, and it somehow became controversial all over again. And I was actually very victorious and fortunate to get my son back. But yeah, you can read the truth about that story, medicalkidnap.com, or I think it's healthnet.news, or you can go to William Wagner's channel on YouTube. Okay. 10 minutes? No way, I can't talk for 10 minutes. Don't leave me here hanging. Are you listening in? Just use the phone if you have to. That's fine. But my experience with my Child Protective Services case and going through that whole process with my own child is what inspired my activism and my work, and that's inspired the show and a lot of the creative outlets that I've created, the platforms that I've created to expose some of the corruption and we failed. We're failing the children, and we have a system that is really based on profiting from failure. So it's set up to really... It's not in the best interest of the children. It's not in the best interest of the family unit. And so the system that we have now has failed society at large on many different levels. And so I started a meme campaign online and this podcast, to highlight some of the issues within the system and that desperately needs to be shut down and completely restructured from the ground up, because it's like a plant that has become overgrown.
Can't see it.
Hi, Brenda. Hi.
Hi.
Yay. Okay, so I was just talking about we have Brenda listening in, and she's in the chat, the live chat. I was just talking about some of the diagnoses and overuse of pharmaceuticals in the foster care system. And you yourself, you're a former foster child. And
yes.
And you're working to bring forth some solutions, and you have several awesome dynamic things going on. So go ahead.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that I'm currently working on right now is to bring awareness to a bill, HB 2115 in Oregon, and that bill is actually going to be put in place to regulate children and medication and all of that's going on in care, because it's come to our attention that a lot of the higher ups in the foster care industry, caseworkers, supervisors, and governors and senators and legislators don't even know what's going on in their own little towns or cities.
Whoops. Was that you? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. There was just a brief interruption there. Somebody tried to call me and it knocked us out for just a second. That always happens when I go live, right? Everybody tries to call you. So
always when you go live too.
Yeah. I was naming off some of the psychiatric conditions. 8 to 5 different psychotropic drugs are, it's not uncommon for children to be prescribed, sometimes diagnosed and prescribed 5 to 8 different types of psychiatric medications.
Yeah, and the district managers, they actually have no idea about all of these children being placed on medication. Why are they on these medication? Who are the prescribing doctors? Why are they on so many different types of medications? How do the medications coincide with each other?
So tell us about your proposed bill and the bullet points.
So first off, I want to say this is actually not my proposed bill. I found a woman online, and she is the one jumping through all the loops. She's talking to the legislator and the vice chairman. She is really the one that's trying to kick this bill off and get it into motion. I actually just found her online one day, and being that I was in the foster care system and I have experience being over-medicated myself, as do some of my foster brothers and sisters, I kind of took it upon myself to present this bill to friends and family and just the public so that the public could be more aware of it, so that we could start getting some people to tell their stories so this bill can actually be passed and put into play.
And this is House Bill 2115.
Yes, House Bill 2115.
And it's out of Oregon.
And it's, yes, ma'am, it's out of Oregon. It's a simple legislation that would require each county to report, how many children in their care are on psychiatric drugs and the prescribing doctor. This is going to help the agency to spot overdrugging, and it's going to help them to stop misdiagnosing children.
And you're on the board. You're also on the board of. You're one of the speakers that is presenting this, right?
Yes. So I have written an email to the chairman and to the vice chairman, as well as I've called them, and hopefully, when there is a court date set in place for this, I will be able to speak on the Senate floor and tell my story, and hopefully I can encourage others to email and call and tell their story as well.
And I'll be posting the phone numbers and email points of contact in the comments. Tell us a little bit about your story, Cheyenne. Tell us about yourself.
So I'm 25-year-old mom of 2. I have a beautiful 4-year-old son and a beautiful 3-year-old daughter. I grew up in the foster care system from the age of 2 to aged out at 18. And I was put on many different psychotropic drugs that not only affected my development of my brain, but the development of my body. And I now have things like hyperthyroidism, which is an overactive metabolism, and it just really causes you to stay thin. I also... What was that?
That's not such a bad thing.
Well, not such a bad thing, but such with my growing stunt, being stunted in my growth. I could have grown taller, different things. I don't exactly know how this medication affected my growing and developing brain, but that's actually something that I want to look more into on how these medications affect developing children's brains.
Mm-hmm. So you have kind of, you don't have to go too deep into your background, but a little bit touch on your story in foster care, how it came about.
So I actually went into care due to my parents being negligent, being abusive, physically, sexually, mentally, you name it. And I was actually neglected by the state. The state did not take me into care in the 48 time home, 5 and 11 years old. I actually ended up going into care when I was 11, only because I had got a physical altercation with my stepmother at the time. So I was then blamed and brought to juvenile hall, and they had brought me into the system because I was a troubled juvenile youth. And after I'd been in care for so many years, they decided to look back on why I was so criminally minded and why I was acting out so badly. And the state actually found that, lo and behold, I was being abused. I thought criminally minded because I needed to think criminally minded to survive. And then, knowing that, instead of helping me overcome the abuse that I had gone through, they just decided to dope me up on different medications and lock me up in behavioral facilities and, in a sense, punish me for now being criminally minded to survive. Mm-hmm. I ended up not doing very well in the foster care system. I was in several different homes. I was in a lot of trouble. I was on probation. I aged out, didn't get into any trouble, had children, and unfortunately picked the wrong man. So I was in a domestic violent relationship, and I was very afraid to get the state involved in any way, shape, or form. These government communities are, and I was just afraid, like most domestic violence victims. I ended up, though, against my better judgment, calling the police and trying to get help. And then instead of being helped, I was punished, and they took my children, in a sense, re-victimizing a victim.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the norm. That's how the system operates, re-victimizing. And then I also mentioned earlier, the state kind of profits from fostering failure with children, and if you're winning, if you're doing well, they're not making money. They're not prescribing all these medications. And so the way that it's set up now, I mentioned it's kind of like it's set up for these children to fail. And when I say that, I mean they're in the system and they're prescribed all of these medications, and then you age out, and what happens?
Well, you age age out at 18. A lot of kids that go through the system don't either have contact with their parents, one, because they were made to think terrible things about their parents, or two, because maybe their parents actually are terrible and that's just not the best road for them to go down. So now they're 18 and they have no idea what it is like to live in the real world. They have no job searching skills. They have no interview skills. They most likely have not finished high school or gotten a GED, maybe already have a baby or don't have a baby. And more than half the time we are finding that these children who are aging out of foster care are going straight from the foster care system straight into the prison system.
But not only that, what happens when they're prescribed all of these psychotropics in state care and then they age out? Do you just quit cold turkey on all of these prescribed medications? What happens?
Well, of course not, because now you are, it's embedded in your head that you need medication. There's something wrong with you. And now you're 18, you have no medical care, and you can't get this medication. So the closest thing to this medication is street drugs. And 75% of foster children that age out of the system turn to street drugs. Not only for something because they believe they need it, but, also as self-medicating. They got no idea what it's like to be out here in the real world, and now they're just thrown out here and they have to survive somehow, and they self-medicate. It's terrible. It's sad. It's horrible. We are creating the next generation of drug addicts.
Yeah. It's pretty sad. That's what I meant by setting up these kids for failure. A lot, and the system is supposed to provide a college education for children that are placed in foster care, and I am unaware of any percentage of children that actually attend college aging out of the system. Do you have any insight on that?
I do have some insight on that. When I was 17, a couple weeks before I turned 18, I was in a shelter. It was a shelter for homeless youth, but it was also a behavioral facility. On the other side of this behavioral facility / shelter was a juvenile hall. In case you were bad, they could just take you straight across the hall to juvie. And then on the other side of this facility was the adult jail. They were all together. And I was age out 2 weeks before my 18th birthday under the circumstances that I give up my right to what's called in Oregon Chafee Housing and the Chafee College Fund. They would have had to pay for my housing and my schooling up until I was 25 years old. But what kid wants to deal with DHS until they're 25? I was ready to be 18 and free. I didn't care about furthering my education. I didn't care about housing. I wanted to do it all on my own. I definitely didn't want anything else from the state. So, unfortunately, I myself didn't take advantage of this, and I know many others who didn't take advantage of this, and it's because the state gives you an option already knowing what you're going to choose. And so 2 weeks before my 18th birthday, when they gave me that choice, they hit the gravel in the courtroom, and I was free to go. I was able to go down to DHS and grab my things that I had in their storage and the trash bags they had them in for me. And I went to stay at a friend's house in their garage on a dirt floor.
Wow. And how many children actually graduate from college, or are you aware of any percentage of children out of foster care that actually graduate from college?
I'm not going to say that there is none, because just like there are, good homes and bad homes for kids, I'm sure there's got to be kids out there that get college educations and want to take advantage of these things to better their lives. I, however, don't have one foster sibling and have not met anyone from foster care that has gone on to go to college to further their education, to better their life or further their life.
So so there's three different, I think there was three different initiatives that you had discussed with me prior to coming on the show. There was the House bill. Hi, sweetheart. He's such a beautiful boy. Hi. I can see him. He's being so good.
Yeah.
Hi. You're on the radio.
Yeah, sure.
You want to tell everybody your name?
My name is Jessie.
And how old are you?
4.
Oh, boy. Are you excited to start school?
Oh, sure. I like going in there. And Head Start.
Yeah, if you go to Head Start.
And what kind of toys do you
Just like Tony Stark's suit.
Oh, like Tony Stark's suit. So we go to Head Start, not Head Start.
Oh, okay. Oh, boy. And what is your favorite cartoon?
Spider-Man.
Woohoo!
We love Spider-Man.
Yeah. Me and Aiden just went to go see the new
Give him a web.
Spider-Man.
Get a web. Give her a web.
All right. So there were 3 other initiatives that you're currently involved in as well.
Yes. So I've got some wonderful news besides this House bill. I relocated from Oregon to Virginia, and while being in Virginia, I found a online application process where I could apply to be a speaker for children that are currently in the system. I did not know really how I felt about this, but I decided I would give it a shot and see if I thought that it would be something that could help make a difference or not. And lo and behold, I didn't get one call back. I got several calls back. The liaison of the Foster Care Board of Administrations in Virginia was excited to speak with me and excited to hear how well I'm doing in my own life, the things that I've overcome. And he offered me a position on the committee for the Foster Care Board of Administrations. Being, though, that I am 25, I can only be on the board for 1 year. And after that, I will then be pushed over, hopefully, more towards speaking with legislation and senators and governors, trying to portray as well as I can these changes that need to be brought about from the Foster Care Board of Administration. So they'll be doing that, and I'll be the one hopefully getting to speak on the changes that they would like to make.
That is so exciting. And you're also going to be hosting a series of podcasts on the Porthole to Justice, right?
I am. So you, my amazing adopted mom, are going to let me take over the podcast here and there and try to do. Really excited to have this opportunity.
And can you give us an idea of what the listeners can look forward to these podcasts being about?
Yes. I'm speaking to several different people that not only have gone through the foster care system as children themselves, but have gone through the foster care system with their own children. And so I am going to be bringing a whole slew of new people into the podcast to tell their stories because they feel that they are strong enough now and they want to help others as well.
I love it. I'm so excited. So there's that, and then there's one more. There was one more initiative.
The last initiative is that with this amazing woman that created the HB 115, I am actively working with her to try and hopefully create another House bill in Oregon. And this House bill would be to protect children of foster care who have grown up, aged out, had their own children, and now they're an easy target.
Yeah, they become. I've done a lot of podcasts in the past, Cheyenne, about targeted individuals, and I often feature. I have data wars where I talk about how the system's kind of set up, to target, and foster care children or former foster care children are some of the most targeted individuals in our society. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. From the day actually that you age out of foster care to the day that you have your first baby, you start a family, there's a little invisible red check mark you can't see. But anytime you visit a doctor's office, anytime there's anything medically that changes about you, because you were the state's child, now the state automatically knows. And this little red check mark basically brands you. Take my children away. I'm guilty. Even though you've done nothing.
Mm-hmm. But not only that, I mean, whenever you get in trouble or you have, it follows you everywhere you go for the rest of your life, right?
Oh, absolutely. Even now, having custody battles go on with my children's fathers. My children's fathers try to bring up my minor days being in foster care. Whenever I see a new psychologist, whenever I see a new doctor, whatever it is that I'm doing in my life, this foster care brand follows me. And it's almost like as soon as I tell a doctor or a therapist or a police officer or whoever it is that I was in foster care, well, now I've just lost all my credibility. Why? When I've done nothing wrong. I was a product of the state's doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's absolutely courageous that you're proactive and you're getting involved for the greater good and for other children. And I'm so proud of you.
Well, the biggest thanks goes to you, Amelia, because you inspired me to tell my story. And, I was strong and I felt strong that I got my children back, but it wasn't really until I was working with you more, even after I got my children back, that, you continued to encourage me. You continued to inspire me. You continued to just tell me how brave and courageous I was and that I could do something to change somebody's life if I wanted to. And I absolutely believe that we need more women like you to inspire other women like me. And so now I want to do what you did for me for others.
Oh. A little choked up there. Okay.
Oh, well, you know what? That's okay because you deserve it. You're a good person. And, I know that there's a lot that you deal with on a daily basis. I don't honestly even know how you do it, how you wake up in the morning and you find your strength and you find your passion to keep going, but you do it. And it's because of you that I am now inspired to do what I want to do. So thank you for helping all of us, for hosting these shows, for taking your time out of your life to care about other people's children and their lives. That, to all of us, means the world. Just to have somebody to listen to us. And not only do you listen, you give advice that works. And you're just completely non-judgmental, which everybody needs somebody like that.
Well, there are genuine, parents that, are absolutely guilty. Unfortunately, that is a sad reality. However, it's going to take people like you and I adulting and stepping up for the greater good and for these children and speak up so that we can bring about awareness, and awareness ultimately leads to change, right?
Yeah, I agree. That has been my biggest struggle throughout, my life in foster care, and then my kids' short period of time in foster care, is getting people to understand that this evil really does exist, and that this, whatever they want to call it, failure of the system, kids falling through the cracks, whatever it is that they want to call it, it desperately needs fixed. And I believe that it can work. I believe that in some cases, foster care is absolutely needed. But there needs to be a lot changed revolving around the entire system, from the way we interview caseworkers and the way we interview foster parents to the way we throw on fairs and let children go to a fair and meet their new possible child, and the way we sell children online like dogs at a humane society shelter. It's meant to work in a different way, and it's not, and it's been failing for some time. And that's why we just desperately need people to wake up so that we can change the way things are right now.
You were in foster care. You weren't just in one foster care placement. You were in several. You want to just lightly touch on that?
Yeah, I was in several different homes. Not as many as some of my brothers and sisters. I've known kids in foster care that have gone through 50-plus homes. Or I've known kids that have been really lucky and they've gotten adopted. And I went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 placements, which isn't very many. And I was lucky to not go through so many placements. But the majority of my placements weren't foster homes. They weren't people that wanted to love me or care for me. They were lockdown facilities where I was punished for reacting to the way I felt. And I felt not validated. And I'm sure that's how a lot of children in care, feel. And like any other child, like a toddler, if they're not getting good attention, they're going to react badly so that they get some sort of attention. And that's exactly what we do in care, us teenagers. We're not validated. Nobody cares to listen to us. And so we think that if we react badly, then maybe we'll finally get somebody's attention. And unfortunately, that's not the way it works. You're then labeled crazy or a level 7, or you have this or you have that, and it doesn't work out in your best interest.
But you endured some pretty serious abuse that triggered some of this behavior, and you then you endured some really horrific abuse.
Yeah, I was sexually abused by an officer in Sacramento, California, and I've been trying to get a hold of these records for some time now, which to no avail can I get. Same with my medical records and, anything else that I really ask for. They're all, for some reason, put away and archived. And the things that I can get are only what they want to release to me. And, that's not the only abuse that I was put through. I was talked down to. I had all of my things taken from me and locked up like I was a prisoner. And I had foster kids that I lived with steal my stuff, fight with me. And it's just really only the strong survive. And I guess that's really why I grew up so resilient and so angry and so mean, is because I kind of had to be, or else I don't think I would have made it here today.
So we're working on it, right? Because you have a mom now.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me and getting my kids back was really working on what I just said, is basically going from 0 to 100. And you don't think you're being listened to. You don't think you're being validated. So you want to make a scene. You want to get loud. You want to get angry. You want people to notice you. You want people to listen. But that's the quickest way to lose your kids. You're going in for the most important job interview of your life. And you want these people to think that you're not just qualified. You are the best qualified person for this job. And in order to do that, you need to lower your voice, and you need to calm down, and you need to work on instead your argument.
Absolutely. Well, we're listening, Cheyenne. We're listening. All right. Well, this is great news. And I'm going to be posting the information in the live chat room for some of the listeners to get involved. And I want to encourage everybody to be proactive with this content. And I absolutely hope that I know you're going to be super successful.
Yes, please. Go vote for this bill. Go call the chairman. Go call the vice chairman. Write out an email. If you know somebody that's been in foster care, if you're in foster care right now, whatever your story is or however you feel about this, as long as you vote for this bill to be passed and to be put in play, you're going to help kids. You're going to help the system. And this hopefully is just one of the first bill that we can pass. And hopefully we can do a lot more. Yeah, I need people's voices, or this isn't going to get passed, and we're not going to be able to make the changes we want to do.
Well, you got it. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all the listeners. And just stay strong.
Will do. I love you.
Love you too.
All right, everyone. That was a quick update with Cheyenne McQueen, and I'm going to be posting all the information in the live chat room and also on Facebook and all of the blogs. There's a Porthole to Justice new blog. It's a closed group. It's a Children and Families chat room. And then we also have a social media news network and Mama Bear Justice. Cheyenne, anything else you want to add really quick?
No, I don't think so. I think that covers it all. Just vote, call, write.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. And at the top of the show, I don't know if I mentioned, that was Ani DeFranco, Amazing Grace, available on iTunes and on YouTube. Cheyenne, I'll talk to you. Stand by, stay on the line, and I'm going to talk to you after the show, okay? All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can subscribe to the show on Spreaker.com. I am also on Patreon now, and I would greatly appreciate your support. I am on Twitter and Facebook, where I'm more interactive on my live blogs. And thanks so much for tuning in. All right. Have a great day, everybody.